Segment 3, Gold and Black Live. Kyle Charters joins us. Tom Dienhart joins us also via phone. Tom from the Big Ten Network is busy writing about some spring football as well as obviously looking ahead to the Big Ten tournament. Tom, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, fellas. I'll be heading to Indiana here early next week for the Big Ten tournament, so it ought to be a pretty fun event this year.
You know, it's interesting because there seems to be, in the world of college basketball, about as even a playing field, and yet also in this Big Ten tournament, we talk about the teams that we see that, you know, the Marylands, the Michigan States, the Indianas, the Purdues, maybe Wisconsin as well, teams at the top. Is there anybody that you're seeing at the bottom rung that could make a run further than one would think?
I don't think so, Al. You know, maybe Ohio State before Tate got hurt. You know, they were playing well, sort of lurking middle of the pack there, but I think they probably don't have a real good shot to make a run. It's funny to think maybe to put Iowa in that category, but, you know, they've, lost 4 in a row, I think 5 of the last 6. They're still a dangerous team. You guys know that. You've seen them. A lot of seniors, 4 key seniors, and we know what seniors are like in March. So, you know, Iowa may be a team coming to Indianapolis with a big chip on its shoulder, and guys, they may come to Indianapolis with yet another loss. They have to finish this season at Michigan this weekend.
Yeah, you view that as a situation, too. How much stock do you put in the need, like a team like Purdue that has a chance at that double bye if they can win and then either Iowa or Maryland lose? How important is that? I mean, it used to be that back at Iowa in 2001 that was the first to winning 4 games in a row back when there were only 11 teams in the league. But how important is that from your perspective?
I guess I don't think it's huge. It's funny the different spin you'll get from coaches on that. Some guys think, well, you know, if you have the time off, they think the rest is great, right? Yeah. If you have to play, they think, well, you want to play because you want to stay hot, you want to see you're rolling. So I guess, again, it depends on what your spin is. If you're playing well, I always think it's good to keep playing. So from a Purdue perspective, I guess, in my mind, it doesn't really matter if they get that double bye or not. The big key is going to be for them is it's going to be Sunday playing, you know, arguably the hottest team in the Big Ten. Doesn't seem like 100 years ago that they opened the season in Madison with a win. You want to talk about a team that's flipped its script. I mean, Wisconsin, just phenomenal job by Greg Gard. They are playing extremely well, and that's going to be a heck of a test for Purdue on Sunday.
I think Purdue opened at Wisconsin in the first Big Ten game of the year and will close against Wisconsin at home in the last Big Ten game of the year. What do you think of the Boilermakers these days?
You know, they're playing better. I still worry about the guard play, I guess, the ability to handle the press, the consistency of the shooting, you know, things of that nature. If there really is truly a go-to guy, you know, it's the same stuff. If the matchup's right, if Purdue's playing well, then they could beat anybody. We've seen that. But I think conversely, maybe they could lose to anybody possibly. Nobody really bad, but you know, it wouldn't be a shock if they lost to somebody early on. But again, it's a team with a lot of talent that can be, like I said, a matchup nightmare for some opponents. But again, you know, you guys have watched as much basketball as I have over the years, and I'm always told by coaches, you know, it's all about your guard play. It's not about your big men. It's about your guard play. You got to have good guard play to play well and go deep in March. And again, maybe it's an oversimplification, but I think there's a lot of truth to it.
Indiana has extremely good guard play by its lead guard or point guard in Yogi Ferrell. The Hoosiers have been very interesting. You know, been somewhat maligned, I guess, in some circles because of their schedule But the fact that they may win this thing by 2 games is pretty impressive. And I thought what you wrote on the site about outright titles and the fact that they really are they're relatively rare. I mean, the fact that, or at least they don't happen every year that teams win this league outright. It's hard to diminish what Indiana has done.
Yeah, exactly right. The schedule is what it is, that they took care of business. And again, you have to tip your hat, especially Tuesday night.
Yeah,
I didn't think they were going to go to Carver Hawkeye Arena and beat a desperate Iowa team on senior night, but they did. And you talk about a clutch senior, a clutch star player playing big in a big environment. That was Yogi Ferrell on Tuesday night. So you're right, Alan. Outright titles are a rarity, and that's 2 in 4 years for Indiana. Not long ago, that was a program in total disarray. It was interesting looking at the history there. Iowa's not won this thing outright since 1970. Minnesota's 1982, but again, they had one stripped in 1997 due to the academic fraud scandal. And, what was funny was Michigan State hasn't won it outright since 2009. And for Purdue, you have to go back to 1996.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then when you think about that, I was there when they clinched. They beat Purdue the day that Rick Mount scored 61 points and gave them their outright championship for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and Coach Ralph Miller. And you were barely, Kyle wasn't born yet, and you were barely born yet. So that, I think, right. But that is a funny experience. Big Ten, you've been writing on the site, too, about spring football and going around the league. One of your most recent stops was Purdue. But any storylines that you see around the Big Ten Conference that, there's always guys that are coming back from injury and new guys on campus and new coaching staffs or new coaches. What do you view as the storyline from the league-wide heading into spring football?
You always go to quarterbacks, at least I do. We know the critical nature of that position, and there's some key quarterback jobs up for grabs across the Big Ten landscape. You look at Connor Cook, gone at Michigan State, Jake Rudock, gone at Michigan, Joe Stave, gone at Wisconsin. And Tommy Armstrong's got to take it up another notch at Nebraska. He could potentially lose his job. Nate Sudfeld at Indiana's gone. Purdue has to figure out what it wants to do at quarterback as well. So there's a lot of uncertainty there. Throw Penn State in too, guys, Christian Hackenberg. Yeah. So again, across the board, there's a lot of uncertainty at the most critical position on the football team in the Big Ten heading into 2016.
You look at this. Well, go ahead, Kyle.
I was going to ask a little off-the-wall question and ask you what's the next NCAA line that Jim Harbaugh is going to try and push here in his short tenure at Michigan that's sure to be much longer.
I don't know, but I'm like a lot of people, waiting to see what it is. In some ways, I'm getting kind of sick of it. But I tell you what, it's working, right? I mean, yeah. I always think of the old public relations line. Love me, hate me, but don't ignore me. Yeah. There's without a doubt, you do not ignore Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. You certainly love him or you hate him. So it's doing what exactly, what he wants it to do. He's in the news seemingly every day. You know what? He's getting paid $7 million a year to make Michigan a better football team and to win football games. That's what he's doing. And again, he's not breaking any rules. He's having a little bit of fun along the way. So, I guess I would take a guy like Harbaugh over a guy like Bill Belichick. Any day of the week, he's really sort of livened things up, not just for the Big Ten, of course, but for college football coast to coast. He's made the conference better. And I just hope to God that he sticks around and Urban Meyer sticks around to sort of see where this rivalry can get if it gets a chance to mature in 5-10 years.
Yeah, it is impressive, and he is funny when it comes to I was watching a little bit of his video from practice, a couple days ago, and he is. I don't know if it would be fun to cover all the time, but he is lively, and he is taking it. He's not afraid to take it right where he lives. And one thing, and guys, both of you can comment, just the whole notion of, I don't know why it's any different than like I said, tennis teams going or baseball teams. I know they're playing games. I get some of that. But I know Purdue swimming has always gone to Hawaii for training over the years. I mean, how do you view that? I'll let Kyle let you answer first.
I haven't given it a whole lot of thought. I think he's trying to push the limits a little bit to get attention, and it's riling some others up. I know we saw Butch Jones down at Tennessee had something to say about it on Twitter, that he was going to show up at their open practice, and he's not allowed to do that. But it's interesting. Yeah, I think the swimming is a good comparison because Purdue has gone to
they go to Hawaii every Christmas, or not every, but every so often to train.
Yeah,
and
you can do it right now, so you might as well do it, I guess. I mean, there's nothing telling him he can't.
I was lucky to go to Indiana Beach when I was in school.
I know.
I tell you what, from everything you read, you hear, this loophole will be closed up. Mark D'Antonio made that comment last week. So I think there's enough agitation across the Southeast that when everybody gets together, maybe the NCAA at some point will, enact some type of a rule to close the loophole of going off campus for some of your spring football. But again, hats off to Harbaugh for like I said, doing his job, doing what he's paid to do. And I tell you what, it's incredible, guys. They won 10 games last year. And I just get the sense, when I watch Michigan, I just get the sense they're never going to lose to teams they're not supposed to lose to. Yeah. They're always going to play smart football. They're always going to be well coached. And now he's getting the talent level up, too. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun once he gets that roster loaded with 4 or 5-star recruits, coupled with his coaching and the swagger he brings to see what he can do in Ann Arbor.
Hey, there's nothing stopping Butch Jones from bringing his team up to Indiana Beach for spring practice.
Yeah,
I mentioned that. I made a comment once about, I'm sure if Georgia wants to come up and have spring drills in Detroit, Harbaugh won't care.
Yeah. I don't know if is there enough room at Indiana Beach for. I don't know. We're getting too many local references among 3 local people. Tom grew up in. He's a West Lafayette legend, as Kyle's a West Lafayette, though Harrison legend as well. So,
sure. One of my classmates is now the athletic director there at Illinois. So
right.
If you want to suddenly feel like you're not doing enough with your life.
Yeah, that was great. Well, I tell you what, I look forward to meeting Josh Whitman. I've not had the chance to do that. He was living and working in St. Louis here at Washington University.
Yeah.
Before getting that job in Champaign. 37 years old, a law degree. I was talking to Brock Spack the other day. I go, Brock, how come you guys didn't get this kid coming out of high school? He goes, we just backed off on him because that was our mistake. But, of course, Purdue missed out on Whitman. But we all know the tight end that they landed in that first class, right, back in 1997?
Yeah, Tim Stratton, right? So
yeah, Tim
Stratton. He didn't do too poorly for himself either, but, yes, that was an interesting thing. One other quick question for you, AD search at Purdue, and you look at, of course, again, a couple, on our list, a couple local candidates in Jim Schaus and Greg Christopher, but where do you see this looking at the landscape? What would be a good fit to replace Morgan Burke in your view?
Yeah, well, you know both those guys well, Al, and I don't know Schaus, but of course I know Greg Christopher was a year behind me at West Lafayette High School. There's 2 ways you can look at this. Greg has a familiarity, having worked at the university, of course, under Morgan Burke, and of course grew up there. Schaus, I don't believe ever worked at Purdue, right?
He just did as an intern, and that was before he went off to work for the Washington Redskins. So like in '83, it would have been his last real touch with Purdue. Okay, well, Greg was there, of course, in the '90s on a full-time basis. So, you know what? There's a familiarity there. I think when you hire people, you like to hire people you're comfortable with. Number one, and if they have a familiarity with the where they're stepping into, all the better, right? But then you can go conversely and go, well, maybe it's time to get somebody with a totally fresh set of eyes, bring a totally different perspective to the athletic department. So I could see that as well. Who that person would be, I have no idea. But sometimes it's kind of good to kick the tires, and maybe there's somebody out there with no ties to Purdue at all that could really maybe bring, like I said, a fresh perspective and some new ideas. Because it's always good to sort of get yourself pushed and stretched a little bit as an organization and an individual. Of course, personally, I think Greg Christopher would be great for a lot of different reasons. Bowling Green background, working at Xavier now. We talked about his Purdue background, too. And this would be, he's probably 50 years old, maybe a nice place he could work for 15 years or so. So it'll be interesting to see, of course. I saw the Klink Scales got the job at Indiana State, so scratch him from the list. Whitman was a candidate, at least mentioned as a candidate. So 2 guys are off the board for the search committee. Yeah, and I think Whitman was, at least there was some interest in him, but again, the timing, there was interest in him because he's very accomplished. I mean, there's no question that at age 37, he's a very sharp guy, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Kyle and I actually had as much as we debate in our most recent print magazine, which is making its way around, about that topic exactly. Well, hey, Tom, we're going to let you go, and thank you so much. I know it's going to be a busy week. Well, I look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis, which is always a fun week when the Big Ten tournament gets going, and I'm sure we'll see you in West Lafayette before long as well.
Well, I always love it, guys. You know that, my affinity for the city, the school, and for you guys as well. I always appreciate you having me on, and we will be seeing each other and talking for sure.
All right, sounds good,
Thanks,
Tom.
Tom.
All right, we're going to finish up our show a little talk, because Kyle has been burning the midnight oil he did last night. I think we almost passed each other on I-65 last night, late night, but he was coming back from the Purdue's women's comeback win over Penn State. Sure had you nervous. I was traveling back, and one of my stops, I looked on my phone, and there was first quarter, and they were talking about how the season may be coming to an end. It didn't, obviously. The Boilermakers made a turnaround.
Yeah, and it was a must-win game if you're looking at the NCAA tournament, too. I don't know whether it necessarily gets Purdue in. I think it does, I believe. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't eliminate them. I think a bad loss to Penn State would have put them probably on the outside looking in and maybe needed some things to shake out correctly for them to get in. But they started 3 of 22 from the field. It looked pretty bad at the start. We're down 17-6 early in the second quarter, and then, turned up the defense a little bit. And they say this after every press conference. I think they say, our defense led to us getting rebounds and us getting transition. That's the way we want to play. Well, they actually did do it last night for about 3 quarters, and that helped them get that win. Michigan State, another late one tonight, 9 o'clock tip time, and that's going to be a challenging, the matchup for Purdue between, trying to slow down Ariel Powers, who's a, pretty good power forward. That's a tough spot for Purdue to really guard well, I think. If Michigan State hits some shots, then that's going to be tough for Purdue. But, they'll roll the ball out there and play it, and we'll see. 9
tournament championships, I believe it is, for Purdue.
And they play well in Indy.
They play well in Indy, and you never know if they can get through this and somebody falls down in front of them. You never know how it can play out for Sharon Versup's team. April Wilson also was really big in the fourth quarter. I'm having a hard time getting used to this quarter stuff, though. I really do.
I like it.
Do think the quarter thing is absolutely the thing you want to do?
I
think for men's college basketball.
Got it. Yeah, and the men will have to follow suit soon, if not as soon as next year, I think.
Because the foul thing is
the biggest. It helps the flow so much. The games, I don't know how long the average men's game is lasting.
And they're actually slow. 4 minutes, I believe they averaged 4 minutes less this year than last.
Yeah,
I don't know how that's happened, but it's happened.
When they
they did some of the timeouts. But
they also, the year after they started, trying to tighten down on some of the physicality. I think those games will last about 2 hours and 15 minutes each, and it just was pretty hard to watch. But, man, the quarters, only 5 fouls per 10 minutes. You no one-on-ones anymore. You start shooting. And there's been a lot of quarters that the women have played where you're at 2 fouls with 1 minute left, and you haven't started shooting free throws yet, and then they reset again the next quarter, and it really has helped out the flow of the game, I think. There have been a lot of instances where you have fouls to give at the end of the game. You got to start, if you want to put somebody on the line, you got to start fouling them quick because you just haven't gotten there yet. Games will last about an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, and that's the right amount.
Yeah.
Perfect for television, too, when they try to make that all fit. Purdue will be on the Big Ten Network tonight. Kyle will have a story as well on the site after the Boilermakers take on the Spartans, which will be the 3-6 game, I believe, right? And that will be tonight after the first game's at 7.
6:30. Rutgers and Ohio State. Purdue if they would advance, they'd play the winner of that game.
Yeah, so
a chance for Rutgers, I think. Rutgers doesn't hit shots very well. They just not a very good shooting team, but they do have some athleticism, I think, that'll help them match up a little bit against Ohio State. But if the Buckeyes score, which they're capable of doing, then Rutgers just won't be able to keep up in that kind of game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. All right, well, we will be staying tuned. It's tournament time. We will not be having our show due to the tournaments as much as anything. We have about 3 more shows we have to get in throughout the course of the year. In all likelihood, our next show will be on March the 25th, but we'll stay with you on that or keep you up to date on that. We'll also have a show in and around the spring game, which will be April the 16th. So make sure that you put that on the calendar as well. If you missed part of the show, too, you can watch it on replay. We'll have all 3. Gordon will be slicing up all 3 segments, as you can watch those as well. We want to thank our sponsors, Triple X, State Farm agent Trent Johnson, Hilton Garden Inn and Basham Reynolds. We want to thank Kyle Charters and of course our guests today, and Coach Daryl Funk and Tom Dienhart, Brian Newbert, Stacy Clarity, and the good folks at WLFI, Cami Bowerman, as well as Gordon Jackson and Allie, for all your help in making this happen. We'll look forward to seeing you probably in 3 weeks, but we'll keep you posted for our next edition of Gold and Black Live. Have a great weekend. We'll look forward to a big game Sunday night in Mackey Arena, and of course the Women's Big Ten tournament as well. Have a good week or two, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon on Gold and Black Live.